Side of sarcasm today. Oh, we're here. Yes, and we are live, and it's the Pirate Broadcast once again. And I wanted to share a little moment with you, interesting people doing interesting things. And today we have interesting people doing interesting things. And I want to share with you today Juliet Herman. And before I introduce Juliet and bring her into the room, I just want to remind everybody that you can leave comments, and I encourage you in all the gratitude in the world for you being here. So if you have any challenges, you can also do your comments on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. So I can receive comments in the stream those ways. And today, Juliet is going to we're going to be talking about taking a few falls and tumbles down mountains, maybe. And we're going to add a little slice of sarcasm into the mix, maybe. I'm going to send her some light because we need light balancing here. And also, we're just going to have a great time and a great conversation. So thank you so much for being here, Juliet. And I hope you're having a fabulous day today.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought up the sarcasm, because the last thing that you said before you put me in the waiting room, I love the green room while you're waiting on live. It's hysterical. You said, and I quote, "I'd like a side of sarcasm." I thought, oh, this is going to be fun.
Well, if we can't have a little brevity in the day, what can we have?
I agree.
I think too many people, and you've probably seen this in your experience, in doing what you do, and we'll talk about that in a moment, is that when people take themselves so seriously, and don't get me wrong, I'm all about being serious when it's appropriate, right? However, there's a lot of times where people take them seriously all the time.
Yes.
And it's almost suffocating to think that you can't just relax a little bit and enjoy life, find joy in the moment. And when you're talking about transformation, I think, that's what comes to mind for me is being able to be adaptable.
Yes.
So I want to have you share kind of how did you get here and what you're doing and why are you doing what you're doing? Because it's not like standard procedure. So walk us through the process of how you got to where you are and why you're doing what you're doing.
Sure. It depends how far back you want me to take it, but
where you fell off the mountain.
Exactly. Well, that's a great place to start. Why don't we start there? That's an interesting segue, if you will. So what Russ and I were talking about very briefly before I joined is that we have a commonality, which has to do with heights, and that we've both fallen significant differences and lived to tell about it, fortunately. So I'm going to start with my mountains. So I have a terrible fear of heights. Contrary to what people say, there are certain fears that I genuinely believe you just have to plow through. So I call it walking bravely and courageously through your fear. I still, to this day, have a fear of heights. I don't let it stop me. Now, it may slow me down a little bit, but I've gone skydiving, mountain climbing, bungee jumping. I've done lots of crazy things, all by choice. I was the one who gathered friends together to do it.
She jumped out of a perfectly good airplane.
I did jump out of a perfectly good airplane, just under 12,000 feet. Yes, exactly. And so to me, it's because I love that when you face your fears and you realize that you're going to be fine, because fears are simply false evidence appearing real. So when I went mountain climbing is an incredible way to face your fears, because there's only one way up and one way down. And when I went, I was on a glacier, and we had just off-roped, and I just untied my rope to my climbing mates. And all of a sudden I was excited, as I get. and I put my hands in the air and I literally fell upside down and backwards. And the greatest thing is that you learn how to prepare for emergencies. I'm really lucky. What saved my life is I had an ice axe. And so I had my ice axe with me, and I remember hearing everyone screaming. You can't hear what they say. I don't care what you see in the movies. You really can't hear them. And I actually was having fun. It was like this great amusement park ride. And then I remembered they wouldn't be screaming at me if something wasn't wrong. So I was able to flip myself around. I was totally upside down and backwards, flip myself around onto my stomach. And I'm still falling, and it's ice. It is sheer ice. You fall very fast. Gravity's incredible. And then I started to take my ice axe and kick it in. You use your feet, use everything. And I literally stopped myself. My foot was just touching the rocks. And so it was really interesting because in the mountains, even though you see all these snowy peaks and ice, there are points where it is blown off, and that's where my feet landed. So it would have been really serious. I may have died. I don't know. Who knows? The point is I'm here, I'm fine, but it did shake me up. And the greatest part was when I got back up. I had a really long way to go to get back up to where I was. And I did that. And I remember it hadn't really dawned on me what happened. It took until I got up to the top where everyone was scared. I wasn't scared. I genuinely wasn't. Where everyone was scared, that I realized, oh, that was very serious. And then for the next 24 hours, my knees were shaking. So what's interesting is that when you don't realize you're scared, you're actually in your fear without realizing it, and you're doing it and you're fine. So I'd encourage everyone, we all have issues in life. It doesn't have to be a physical fear. It could be anything, whether it's just fear of stepping out on your own and being an entrepreneur, whatever your fears may be, just face them. Because it is far worse to not face them than to face them and maybe it doesn't work out, but at least you did it and you'll release that. You'll at least release the pain from the fear. I'd love to hear about you fell downstairs.
Well, and here's the thing that that I really, for myself, this is just for me, is that when I go through something like that and I face the fear, it removes the baggage of the what if.
Yes.
Because the what if baggage that you carry through life and the coulda, shoulda, woulda, all that kind of garbage. It's
nice catch
really,
there, Russ.
What's that?
Nice catch.
Yeah. And it's like the thing that you have is really an opportunity to grow as an individual, and it's really the experience that we have in life that allows us to live fully and kind of go through that change and mental change, saying, I can do this. I will do this. I have done this. And it's an experience that we can cherish and live through and survive and express our desires and our goals through, and it's like, okay, I don't have to do anything that I coulda, shoulda, woulda done. Right. Yeah. And so one of the things that I notice about what you're doing is the way that you're doing it too. It doesn't seem, it's like how do you phrase it? The forfeit.
Oh, the don't fit in, fit out. And it's the 6 pillars of transformation.
Yeah. Walk us through that. And did the mountain climbing incident, was that the seed of what you're doing now, or was that just a piece of your journey that you experienced along the way?
I actually think it's both, because everything that happens to us, if we are self-aware, it shapes us. So it made me realize that I'm far stronger than I think. Everyone talks about resilience. There are a million resilience coaches. I don't really care if anyone says I'm resilient. I know I am. So I'd also invite everyone to realize that it's irrelevant what other people say about you. It doesn't mean it doesn't impact you. Of course it does. You're human. However, don't let it change you from who you are. There are certain aspects of myself. No one can tell me that I'm not resilient. I don't care. I wouldn't even listen to it. It wouldn't impact me in any way. So there are certain things about myself that I just know to be true. And if someone tells me otherwise, I literally will not even question it. There are other aspects where maybe you're in a vulnerable moment, you're going to question it. So for me, the way Fit Out Academy came about was I realized that in my entire life, I have never fit in. Despite wanting to fit in, I never have. And I always refer back to, there are times when I was very successful in my career. There are times when I was very popular at school where I still didn't feel like I fit in. I had imposter syndrome. I mean, all of that was happening. So I realized that the only way to actually embrace who I was and understand it is to realize that I'm unique. We all are. And that when you fit out, when you stand out, that is when you soar. That is when you are able to really be on your path, to live on your purpose, and to succeed in your career. So it's really understanding who you are. And I think a lot of people claim that they are self-aware. I don't think most people are. And the reason is you really have to look at every aspect of yourself, the good and the bad. We all love saying we're so wonderful and there's so many wonderful things about us, and there are, but look at the parts of you that are holding you back. The experience in life that maybe when you're a child or maybe as an adult or maybe someone bullies you, that it's not a good feeling. It's really uncomfortable to look at that. When you're at work, if you're not succeeding in an area, instead of running away from it, look at it and realize why am I not succeeding? Well, chances are it has something to do with trying to fit in with the same methodology as what everyone else uses, and that doesn't work for you. Perhaps your brain doesn't work that way. Maybe you're a visual learner, maybe you're an auditory learner, or whatever it is. There are many different ways that you can succeed, but it may not be like your leader or the way your leader wants you to. So when you figure out what makes you fit out, and when you have that discussion with your leader or whoever's on your team, or whether you're the leader, whoever your supervisor is, when you have that discussion and you really understand what is unique about you, what your special strengths are, whether it's organization, whatever those strengths may be. I know, I've talked about this a lot, that it becomes your behavioral superpower, but you also have to be careful, because that same behavioral power, it's great when you know how to make it your strength and you combine that with your skills. But if you're too much of that, it can become your weakness. So obviously I have no problem speaking. I'm very comfortable. Very comfortable. That's never been an issue. So for me, I have to beware and make sure that I listen attentively. So I turn it around and I say, I'm going to be a great listener as well.
Yeah. And I think you brought up a couple of great points there, and I want to unpack them a little bit more, is because self-awareness takes a lot of effort and honesty, because you really have to be, resilient in the fact that you can still have faults.
Yes.
And love who you are. And I think it's really important for us to understand that, we all have faults, and there are a lot of times we lie about them. We're the best liars to ourselves in our ego, because we don't want to punish our ego. And I think everybody wants to feel valued. Everybody wants to feel needed. Everybody wants to feel loved. That's an inherent, emotion that we all carry with us in life. And I really think it impedes our ability to be self-aware sometimes. And we say, well, this is the way I need to be because it fits into my environment. When in fact, if society were to embrace the unique abilities of everyone and enhance those abilities and amplify those abilities, I mean, it would be such an amazing environment to live in. It'd just be, crazy and creative. And, I just love the idea and the concept of being able to do that. Now, I also believe that every day is a gift, and, we need to do what we can to live that. And a lot of people I've talked to, like, especially younger individuals, when I think back when I was a younger individual, you're kind of bumping into things. You're not really sure who you are, because you're really, you're not sure what your abilities are, what your skills are. And we're always comparing, one with another and saying, okay, well, and it's just natural. It's just natural. However, comparison right now with social media, especially, is really not, it's not enhancing our life. It's creating this stress and inability to move forward in some cases. And so how do you help individuals get past that moment and move into their own self-awareness and their ability to be who they are?
Well, the comparison is very toxic. It is really, when you play the compare and despair game, there are no winners. You will
Yeah.
lose 100% of the time, because there's always someone who's better than this at you, who's better than that at you. So why play the game if you know you cannot win? So let go of comparing yourself, because you can compare yourself into oblivion. Know who you are. And again, if you don't know who you are, at least accept that you're different. That's step one. I always say you are different. And when I'm working with business people, one thing I always find is they think that they are better at taking a 24-hour day and making it into 48. We are all human beings. And it's like that balloon, you're going to burst. So how can you slowly let out the air instead of bursting? How can I work with you to figure out, from a time management standpoint, how to really maximize the ROI on each amount of time? But again, it's knowing your limitations and knowing where you want to grow. So now you know your limitations. Which one of those do you want to work on? Because again, we have to work on one piece at a time, but there are still behaviors that are ingrained in us from the time we were 5. And those behaviors are really not going to change. So you have to accept what aspect of that exists within you. Maybe you are super dominant and you don't like listening to other people. Well, guess what? If you want to succeed, you have to. You don't have a choice. You have to figure it out. So figure out, it's going to be uncomfortable, but when you're in a meeting and you want to take charge and you're working with a client, you need to force yourself to say, okay, I'm going to let them speak for 10 minutes. And then I'm going to come up with some questions so I can get back involved in the conversation. But at least I'm asking about them. Because you know what, at the end of the day, we all like to talk about ourselves, but no one is more interesting than we are, right? I mean, we are the most interesting people in the world to ourselves. So understand that everyone you're speaking with, whether it's a client, a friend, whoever it may be, they have that exact same thought. So make sure you are really in a conversation and not politely being quiet and waiting for them to finish speaking. Because you need
listen to respond.
Yes.
Is not necessarily the best strategy you can carry on in life. Also, I think it goes back to utilize self-awareness as a superpower and practice it like an instrument, because it's really important for us to, until we really become transparent with who we are. Like myself, I love doing a lot of different things. Can I do a lot of different things? Absolutely. Should I do a lot of things? Absolutely not. It's like, find my genius zone, find my sweet spot, and thrive in that sweet spot. And my new theory for the 2020 is document and delegate. If I can document it, I can delegate it. And if I can delegate it, that allows expansion, because I'm helping other people help other people, right? And so, and it's taken a lot of practice to be aware to the degree that I can actually say, okay, my strength is not multitasking and doing 20 things, fitting 48 hours into 24. It doesn't work, and it's counterproductive, and it's limiting me in my growth. So taking those elements and enhancing those and saying, okay, let's get honest with my ego here. It's like, I'm not a better driver than I think I am.
Sure.
And so it's like, let's get real. So what's the process you use for the pillars and implementing those? And before we jump into that, I just wanted to take a moment here, Juliet, and give a shout out. Maureen, Rise, Doug Thompson in the room, Jennifer. Hey, thank you so much for being here. And Jennifer, thank you so much. Here, I hope you're knitting. Lori Knudsen, good morning. Vicky O'Neill, Derek Monroe, Lewis, good morning, Lewis. I am having a groovy day, Lewis. Wendy, happy to be here. Hey, I love that. Congrats on the launch. Kenyatta is in the room. Woot, woot.
Hi, Kenyatta.
behavior superpowers, respect the kryptonite.
Yeah, I was actually going to use the word kryptonite, and I knew she was on the phone, on the videos.
Yeah. So Heidi, thank you so much. All the gratitude in the world for everyone being here. And what we're doing is we're talking to interesting people, doing interesting things. I just really want to thank you, Juliet, for being here and honoring the fact that we're talking about transformation. And everybody in the world, everybody in their journey has to go through transformation to improve. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Did I interrupt?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. So you asked what the process is. So I created a strategy that really helps people transform. And I call it the 3 E's. It's embrace, engage, and evolve. And it's a strategy that you can use both for business transformation and life transformation. And it really enables you to look at what the actual problem is, not the symptoms. So that's step 1. Embrace. You need to really understand and clearly define the problem. And when you do that, you're really looking at every data point, and you are really getting to the root cause. So you're continuing to ask yourself questions along the way. Why is this happening? It's the 5 whys. You keep going why like a little toddler, and eventually why? And eventually you get to that root cause, and that's actually the problem. Once you have the problem defined, you then can go on to the next stage, which is engage. In engage, you are taking inspired and targeted action. The reason it is inspired and targeted, it is based upon the foundation of what that problem is. So you're actually looking to solve the problem. In that stage, you are actually creating smart action steps. So mini SMART goals along the way. Make sure these are steps that you can achieve, because if they are not, so you're going to dissect it into small steps with bigger ones along the way, such that you're actually achieving them. As you are going through that process and taking these action steps, you will eventually get to evolve. When you evolve, now that is great. That means that you've solved that one problem, but that means you're here. You want to keep climbing that mountain and going to higher and higher peaks. So with every strategy, you don't rest on your laurels for long. You keep continuing to grow. And the only way to continue to grow is to continue to look at the problems. And then
I don't know why the Lego song, Everything is Awesome.
Oh,
in building blocks, it's like the building blocks. Like,
it is. You need a pirate Lego.
Yeah, we need a pirate Lego. And the whole point, you've been in advertising and media in the past, and so you could appreciate that. The whole philosophy of the pirate broadcast is twofold. It's one that is if you're broadcasting illegally, if you don't have a license to broadcast, you're a pirate broadcaster. The other side, though, is the philosophy behind the pirates were the most aggressive and efficient sailors as well. And because everybody had a job, everybody knew what their job was, and everybody knew their place. They knew exactly what needed to be done when it needed to be done. And so this whole philosophy of if you're stepping outside the box, you're moving forward, you are the media. You have the opportunity and the ability to share your gift, your message, your brand, and everything else. And it's the same way with our ego. The transformation has to take place, and we have to become pirates in our own lives in order to accomplish transformation and be able to go for the treasure, because the treasure is us. We are the treasure. And until you find the treasure in yourself, it's really difficult to move forward. And so I applaud you and your efforts in growing and helping others find that, because it's a scary place. It's like when you get honest with yourself, it's a scary place. So where do people track you down, and what kind of programs do you use to help other people like myself and other people on LinkedIn? And it's talk a little bit about that and why, what's your passion in being here in LinkedIn, and what's the change that you're seeing take place?
Well, so my passion in being in LinkedIn is really to spread the word that the old methodology of doing things is not working. The
Yeah.
old methodology is where people are looking to get external validation. So in business, external validation will only carry you so far, because if
Mm.
you don't appreciate that you are achieving, if you are not working within who you really are, eventually it will catch up to you. No matter, you could be the president of a major Fortune 100 company, but at some point you are going to implode. You just are. Or your team is going to implode. It will definitely filter down the ranks. So what
Yeah.
you need to do is transform. You need to change the way that you look at things. I mean, Wayne Dyer is a great expression. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I firmly believe in that philosophy, which goes along with don't fit in, fit out, because you are changing the way you've spent your entire life looking to fit in. And
Yeah.
when you start to look at your life as, wow, I am unique. There are things about me that make me different. This is my superpower. This is why I am here in this company. This is why I'm here in this place. This is why I'm here in life. This is my purpose. And when you figure that out, you're able to really take action to embrace who that is. So I use a combination of executive coaching and consulting. A coach is someone who pulls out the strategy from you, who pulls out that part from you. And
Mhm.
coach, a consultant actually is someone who pushes it into you, who gives you the strategy and says, based on our conversations, this is what you need. So I do a combination of both. Everything I do is customized. Yes, I have certain formulas and strategies that I
Sure.
use and procedures that I use, but I always find that if I treat, even when I'm working with a big company, if I treat the team as individuals, because again, I firmly believe that everyone fits out, then the results are much greater. So when I work with my leaders and teams, it's based on what they need, but always
Yeah.
underpinned by the 6 pillars of transformation, which is fit out. So the F stands for freedom of expression, which is enabling everyone to express who they, it's number one, understand who they are, and enabling them to express it wherever they are. So if you are in a meeting, granted, there are certain meetings when you just have to listen, depending on who you're speaking with, but most of the time you want to be able to get your point across. Make sure you are modulating your tone and being sensitive to who you're with. Certain people have different ways of hearing messages. So make sure you're communicating and expressing yourself in a way they'll understand. The second pillar
Mm.
is intuitive action, which is listening to your intuition. I'm a big believer in making database decisions combined with your intuition, but in urgent situations, you got to go with your gut. You have to go with your intuition and just
Yeah.
believe that if you have experience and the knowledge, you will be able to make more informed decisions and better decisions. And then the next one is T, which is trust and leadership. Team synergy, excuse me. When you have team synergy, that means that every single person on the team is fitting out and doing what they do naturally, because these are all natural talents combined with skills. When they do what they do naturally and the team has complementary skills and works together well, then you can create team synergy, and always aim for positive team synergy. What positive
Mm.
synergy is that old equation, 1 + 1 = 10 or 100 or however you want to
Yeah.
say, which is that some of the individuals working together is far greater than anything the individual can do on their own when they're working separately, and you add those pieces up. And then the next one is O, which is outcome focused. When you are outcome focused, it means that you start with the end in mind. You start with your goal. What is your overarching goal? And then you work backwards, because it is far better when you are looking at what you want to achieve to create a strategic roadmap in order to achieve it than to start from the details and hope that you achieve the goal. And then we're down to U, which is united vision. So everyone on the team needs to buy into the vision. It can't just be management coming up with the vision, or if they came up with it before you joined the firm, make
Yeah.
sure that every single person in the firm understands it. So communicated it to them in a way that they understand and buys into it. And then you could figure out their role and they have a clear understanding and how to work towards achieving that vision. And the final one, the final pillar is trust in leadership, which means that the leader needs to earn their trust. Just because you're a leader, it doesn't mean you are automatically.
Doesn't mean we trust you.
No, not at all. So you have to earn that trust. But the way to earn it is to trust your team, empower your team, delegate to your team, and be there to support them, but don't look over their shoulders. So trust that they can do their job well. And when you do that, they will trust you in turn. And there's one other thing I wanted to mention. You mentioned delegation, and you said documenting and delegation. So what I would say, one thing that I work with my clients on is the 4 Ds, which is do, delegate, delay, or delete. So what that means is when you are looking at something that is on your plate, is it something that is doable? Okay, it's fast, it's past that first test. Great. Is it something that you can delegate? Because we all need to work together. Even if you're an entrepreneur and you're working alone, we all have a virtual team. You need to figure out how to delegate it. Is there someone who could do this better than me? Or is it someone who reports to me? Can they do the job? Great. Then let me delegate it to them. Then the next one is to decide, is this something that is time sensitive, or is this something that's important but not urgent? Well, then you want to delay it. And finally, not everything that crosses your plate is doable. Just delete it. Move on.
Yeah. Move on. Move on. I love that. I love the philosophy of being able to move through that process. And I haven't always been an advocate or a practitioner of it. However, we will improve, right? So I just want to give a shout out to you, Juliet. I know if you're not connected, reach out to Juliet. Tell her Russ sent you. So I'm not sure if you can accept any invitations anymore or not. However, it's nice to be connected. It's nice to be having conversations around what you do and how you do it and who you help. And thank you so much for being here. So one last thing. What major thought would you like to leave the world today with?
Is that
before we walk out of here?
Oh, okay. I was going to say I didn't walk the plank yet, so I'm excited. That would be one thought. But the other thought is, I know I've said it multiple times, but it's really just keep saying in your mind, don't fit in, fit out. Because when you fit out, you are being you, and live who you are everywhere you are. Because what I've noticed on social media in particular, people are not living who they are. They are living whatever is popular at the moment because they want that external validation. Bring yourself to work, just like you would bring your child to work when they have bring your children to work day. Every day is bring yourself to work day. So when you're at work, don't try to be someone else because you're never going to remember it all the time. You're going to slip up one day. So,
well, it's much easier to be yourself when you're yourself, right?
Isn't it true? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Juliet. I know you're busy, and I thank you so much for all the gratitude in the world for you being here. And I love the fact that the pirates here can actually fit out on a regular basis. And we're here now. So now you're a pirate. So now you're part of the pirate community. Go out and let's have some pirate fun today. And everyone, thank you so much for being here. Love your comments, love your conversations. Reach out. I'm also available on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and I want you to know that kindness is cool, smiles are free, and you enjoy the day. Take care.